Hello everyone and welcome to my FPL YouTube channel. My name is Jamal and today I am going to go through Game Week 6 analysis and planning for Game Week number 7. So the plan of this video is we are going to go through every single fixture for Game Week 7 and we are going to see where is the best place we can invest in, which teams are the best teams to invest in, and what players to invest in. So let's get to it. So the first fixture of Game Week 7 is Bournemouth versus Fulham. And let's see how it looks like. Okay, so just a quick look at it. Out of the past 6 game weeks, Fulham has not won a game away. Bournemouth are playing home and they have won 67% of their games. And we know that in the past 6 weeks, or 6 game weeks, every single team have played 3 games at home and 3 games away. So out of the 3 games they played at home, Bournemouth won 2 of the 3 games. So that is actually a very interesting stat that we should be aware of. At the same time, they are playing against Fulham, and Fulham has not won any game at all when they played away. If we want to quickly look at the where is it gone? Refresh it. Okay, there it is. So if we want to have a quickly look at Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth here, this is a history of all the games that they played. So they most recently played against Leeds. No. Who did they play against recently? They played Bournemouth played. Where is Bournemouth? Here. Yeah, so they played against Leeds recently. Let me just quickly do something. We are okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So okay. So let's start again. I've had a hiccup. So the first game that we're going to analyze is Bournemouth versus Fulham. Now, the first thing I see when I click on this fixture is Bournemouth has 67% win ratio when they play at home, and Fulham have 0%. So they have not won any games on the road when they were playing away. Bournemouth, on the other hand, have won 2 of the 3 games that they've played at home so far. Now, we've had 6 game weeks so far, and every 6 game weeks, every single team plays 3 games at home and 3 games away. So, out of the 3 games away Fulham played, they have not won any uh, matches. At the same time, when Bournemouth played at home, they've won 2 of the 3 matches. Now, if we want to look at a history of the home games, we can see one they've last drew against Newcastle at home. They won against Brighton 2-1, and they won against Wolves 1-0. Fulham, on the other hand, where is Fulham? Fulham, on the other hand, and one thing we can notice here, they're actually if we were to just filter on teams playing home games, they're actually at the top. So they are joint second highest with 7 points from home matches. So you can see Liverpool is the only team that have won 3 games out of 3 at home, whilst Arsenal, Bournemouth, Brentford, surprisingly, Fulham and Sunderland, they've all won 2 games at home and drew 1 game. So they're the teams who they've got 7 points just playing at home so far. Whereas if we look at the away games for Fulham, look at that. This is a very interesting stat. Fulham have only generated 1 point from the 3 away game matches, and they're third to bottom, let's just say. So they've only generated 1 point. They're in the same league as Wolves and Man United. So for me, this is a very, very interesting stat. So Bournemouth versus Fulham, if we just follow the data, I suggest that I predict Bournemouth is going to score, definitely. They're going to win, and Fulham are likely to lose. Just looking at the win and loss ratio between the home and away teams. Now, if we look at the goals scored in the past 3 game weeks, Fulham actually scored more goals than Bournemouth. They've scored 1 more goal in comparison to Bournemouth. So 5 goals for Fulham, 4 goals for Bournemouth. But in terms of conceding, Fulham have conceded 1 more goal than Bournemouth as well. So in terms of scoring and conceding, they're actually very similar. And you could just look at the total points as well. So Bournemouth has a total point of 11, and Fulham has 8 points. And there's like a 4 league ranking difference. So there's only 3 points that separate them. So in terms of the scoring and the conceding ratio, there's not much to say. You can see here that they're both very, very similar. It's not drastically different. So let's have a look at the teams. Individually, teams look at individual players. Okay. Now, let's start off with Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, for game week 6, they've only had 43 points. And we can see Semenyo, Senesi, they've got 7 points each. Right? Semenyo's price is also increasing on a regular basis. You can see... hold on. Let me do something. I forgot to do something. copy. Can't believe I forgot to do this full screen. Let's fix the screens. Okay, let's sort this out. Okay. Let's cut this bit off actually. Make this bigger. Okay. That's better. Okay, so let's have a look at the teams individually. So Bournemouth, looking at the past or the most recent game week they played, they've only managed to get 43 points in total as a team. Now, the most highest points was by Senesi, and that you can't see everything, can you? Let's fix it properly. Okay, that better? Maybe zoom in a bit more. Okay, all right. So look. Okay, so looking at the teams individually, we can see Bournemouth only scored 43 points in the latest game week 6, and the majority of the points came from Senesi, Semenyo, and Krupi Jr. Senesi has scored a goal, no bonus points for him, and Senesi, however, he's had an assist, and he's got 1 bonus point and 2 defensive contribution points. You can see it here. While Krupi, he's got 2 bonus points and he had a goal. So I remember this game was 2-2 between Bournemouth and Leeds. So they have similar points there. But if we were to look at overall points, we can see Senesi is actually one of the top rated defenders so far with the maximum points. If I deselect Bournemouth, what you're going to see, this is basically showing the top players with the most highest points, and you can see Senesi is number 1. He's got 44 points altogether for the past 6 game weeks. Mark comes second. Aldery, who had a fantastic game week, he comes third. So going back to the fixture, if we look at Bournemouth versus Fulham, let's have a look at Fulham. Now, specifically for game week 6, Fulham had actually had a really poor game week. We can see Raul Jimenez scored a goal, so he had 6 points. Lukic had 4. So overall, they actually had a poorer game in comparison to Bournemouth. So to summarize, Bournemouth is likely to win this game purely because they have an excellent home record, 67% home record, whilst Fulham have a 0% away record. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so moving on to the next game, which is Leeds versus Tottenham. Leeds versus Tottenham. All right. So the first thing I notice is Spurs have a 67% win ratio playing away, whilst Leeds have a 33% win ratio playing at home. In terms of so if we look at Leeds and Spurs, how they have performed in terms of looking at all the games they've played and how the points is broken down based on home or away. If we click on Leeds, they have currently got 8 points, right? So out of the 6 games, they've won 2 games, they've drew 2 games, and they've lost 2 games. And they are going to play they are playing home against Tottenham, right? So let's see the home record. So if I click on home, you can see Leeds are kind of on the mid-table, just looking at the home points. They have generated 5 points at home. So that is 1 win and 2 draws, which is not bad actually, because they haven't lost at home at all. And on the other hand, Tottenham, if we look at Tottenham, let's select away games, or let's deselect everything. Tottenham, however, they've got 11 points in total. They've won 3 games, they've drawn 2 games, and they've lost 1 game. And they're going to play away, so let's see how the away record is. Tottenham, where is Tottenham? Tottenham is at the top. Look at that. So Tottenham have, out of the 3 games they've played away to date, they've won 2 games and they've drawn 1 game. So this is very, very interesting because Spurs haven't lost away, whilst Leeds haven't lost at home. So it's going to be an interesting battle actually. If we look at the game so far, Leeds have recently drawn against Bournemouth. That was a very good game. Overall, they played home recently to Bournemouth. That was a draw. They've played with Newcastle at home. That was also a draw. And they've played Everton at home and they've won 1-0. On the other hand, if we look at Spurs when they played away to Brighton, they drew. They played away to West Ham, they won 3-0. And when they played away to Man City, they won 2-0. So they had an excellent start to the season. But recently, the form has been going down. Could this be a trend? I don't know. But let's have a thorough, detailed look at the team and the players. So if we select, how did they perform? Let's see. So Spurs for GameWeek 6. You can see they've only generated 35 points as an entire team. 35 points is actually low, but if you look at the entire game week, we can see average. Usually we have games where this team's getting over 80 points altogether, but you can see this current game week and the previous game week, there's not many greens at all. So it was a low scoring week in general. But Spurs, let me have a look. Spurs, Palina. I remember that was a last minute goal, wasn't it? He scored a last minute goal. He got 3 bonus points, 9 points in total, and they played against Wolves. Right, so in general, I got Richarlison for my team in my wild card, and he was a bit disappointing with only 2 points. On the other hand, Leeds had generally a good game week 6. We can see Longstaff had got 15 points, and he scored a goal. He had an assist. He got 3 bonus points, and he got 2 defensive contribution points. Excellent stuff. And there was a very interesting statistic that I saw recently where the new promoted teams have generated a total of 23 points, I think, more than the past 10-20 years. So the promoted teams are doing excellent. So to summarize, Leeds versus Tottenham, I actually think it might be a draw, because both teams haven't lost. In terms of Spurs haven't lost away, Leeds haven't lost at home, so it could be a game which is a draw. But at the same time, I do think there's going to be some goals on both sides, so it's worth investing in the top scoring players from both teams. Okay. Moving on to Man United versus Sunderland. Now I'm going to skip Arsenal versus West Ham for now because West Ham are currently playing. So once the game finishes, I can analyze their data. So moving on to Man United versus Sunderland. Let's have a look. Very, very interesting. So we can already see Man United have a win ratio of 67% playing at home, while Sunderland have a win ratio of 33% playing away. So technically, in terms of numbers, Man United have won 2 games at home. I actually didn't know that. Sunderland won 1 game away. So in terms of just looking at the win ratio, the first thing we notice is Man United are 33% likely to win. At the same time, Sunderland have more points than Man United, and they have got a difference of 9 league rankings. Sunderland are surprisingly at a higher ranking than Man United this season so far. And they've been really, really good. They have been really good. In terms of goals scored, though, they haven't been scoring much goals. They've only scored 2 goals in the past 3 game weeks. Man United, on the other hand, scored 1 more goals. But look at this. In terms of goals conceded in the past 3 games, Man United have conceded 7 goals, while Sunderland conceded only 1 goal. Now that just tells you that Sunderland's defense is on fire at the moment. And with Omar Alderete, his He scored a goal, and he was my prediction. I actually predicted he's gonna get big points. I predicted that if they, and this is something interesting. If Sunderland, and they've got an excellent defense so far, if Sunderland keep a clean sheet, they have excellent defenders with a lot of DEFCON points. I'll show you here. Look at this. This is a list of the total number of DEFCON points generated by the team. And if I just look at Sunderland, Aldery, he's got 8 DEFCON points over 6 games. And you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games in a row he's been getting DEFCON points. That's crazy. And then he got a massive point haul this game week. So what I was saying is Sunderland have got excellent defensive contribution points, and in terms of bonus, Sunderland have got excellent bonus as well. Look at that. This is the total bonus points received by each player. Now you can see what I'm trying to say is it is an excellent it's recommended and highly recommended to invest in Sunderland players, especially people like Alderweireld and Mukili, because what they do is they have an excellent conceded. So out of the past 6 games, they've had 3 clean sheets. You can see that on so they had 2 clean sheets. No, 3 clean sheets. He didn't play. He's only played 37 minutes on game week 1. So Sunderland has a very good clean sheet record. And players like Omar, they have consistently received defensive contribution. Now, if Sunderland can hold a clean sheet, you can expect 8 to 10 points per defender when you add the clean sheet points and when you add the defensive contribution points. But if you're super lucky and if a player like Omar scores, then you're going to get the points for scoring goals, and you're going to get bonus points as well. So it is very, very lucrative. On the other hand, Man United on the other hand was very disappointing. I had Bruno on my team, so I got a -1 from him. If you look at game week 26, you can see Bruno would be here, -1. Very, very poor. Okay, it's taking his time to load. But Sesko had 8 points because he scored a goal. He got 2 bonus points as well. And everyone else had very, very, very little points. But if you look at overall Man United's performance, it has been terrible. Unlike other teams where defenders have close to 30 or 40 points in some occasions, you can see the Man United defenders are barely scraping any points. So we should definitely avoid having any Man United defenders. You could even see Delete has 2.8% of FPL community have invested in him. Everyone else is very low. 0.7 for Harry Maguire. Euro is 2%. And then Patrick Dogu is 5%. Okay. I don't know why people buy Man United players, to be honest. But to summarize, to summarize, this is also going to be an interesting battle. Let's have a look at Man United record in terms of the games they've played. So out of the 6 games they've played, they've lost against Brentford recently, won against Chelsea, lost against... So they're going to play home. So they won against Chelsea, home. They won against Burnley, home. And they lost 1-0 to Arsenal at home. Now they're going to play... Sunderland. And let's see, Sunderland away. Sunderland. So Sunderland, on the other hand, when they played away, they won 1-0 against Nottingham Forest. A draw against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace have been awesome so far. And they lost against Burnley. That was a surprise. 2-0, they lost against Burnley. So 1 draw, 1 loss, and 1 win. And if we just look at their points, so they generated total of 4 points playing away, and Man United generated 6 points playing home. Okay, so ultimately I would say, let's see how the goals have been for in terms of number of goals conceded. Look at this is very interesting. Sunderland, whilst playing away, they have conceded only 2 goals, and it all came from 1 game. So for the past 2 away games they played, they actually had a solid defense. So that is a very interesting fact. So their defense is solid even playing away. So considering Man United haven't been the strongest and Sunderland's defense have been strong, I actually think Sunderland are going to prevent Man United from scoring. So to summarize, I would invest, or I would bring my Sunderland defense to the game, and Man United, I've got Bruno's out next game, because actually he's not out. I'll keep Bruno in just in case, and Sunderland defense as well. So keeping Bruno should be kind of like a backup option. If you don't have anyone else strong, then maybe bring Bruno in. But if you have a solid defense, solid team, Bruno is not necessarily someone I would bring as a priority. So that's my summary for Man United versus Sunderland. Okay. Next game, Liverpool or Chelsea versus Liverpool. Now, that is going to be a very interesting game. So, the first thing we can see is that Chelsea have won only 1 game when they played home. Liverpool, on the other hand, they've won 2 games when they played away. And we can start off seeing how Chelsea have been playing so far. So Chelsea are currently mid-table with 8 points. Liverpool are at the top with 15 points. If we look at Chelsea's home record only, Chelsea is only have got 4 points only for the past 3 away games. They've won one game, drew one game, and lost one game. In terms of scoring, they've scored 3 and they've conceded 3 as well. So the goal difference is 0 when they are playing home. If we look at Liverpool, on the other hand, they've got 15 points and at the top, but when it comes to away game, they're not at the top. They're slightly off the top, to be honest. So they've got 6 points in total. They've won 2 games and they've lost 1 game. And if we look at who they lost against and remind ourselves, they lost against Crystal Palace. Remember, they lost it last minute, I think. So yeah, when they came down to Crystal Palace, they've lost 2-1, and that was the most recent game. So they're on fire, but away is the only time that they slipped. And I remember watching that game, and Liverpool were actually very, very poor. So in terms of goals, they've scored 5 goals and conceded 4 goals whilst playing away. And Chelsea had 3-3. Okay, so Liverpool actually conceded more goals when they played away. So they conceded 2 goals with Newcastle and 2 goals with Crystal Palace. Chelsea, on the other hand, when they played home, they've conceded all 3 goals against Brighton. So they actually had a clean sheet on the first 2 home games that they played, which is very interesting. But they have been very poor recently. If we look at just the past 3 games, Chelsea and Liverpool had 4 goals each, so they have a 50-50 scoring share. In terms of conceding, look at that. Chelsea have conceded 7 goals, whilst Liverpool conceded 3 goals. So, if we look at the teams independently, look at the players, look and see, the first thing I see, Chelsea had only 22 points overall. So that's 22 points is basically the total points of the entire team. That's crazy because Haaland had more points by himself than the entire Chelsea squad. For this game week, Enzo scored the header. I remember watching it. So he got 2 bonus points along with his goal points. The game before that, game week 5, they also played really bad. And that's the game when Sanchez got a red card. We can see -3 here. Sanchez. Yep. So they had 2 poor games in a row. Liverpool, on the other hand, they've been playing quite poor as well. But if we look at the entire history to date, you can see the past game was the most poorest game they've had. 39 points total by the entire team. And let's have a look at attacking returns. So the question is, who do we invest in? Let's just select on Liverpool and Chelsea. So in terms of attacking returns, we can see Enzo and João Pedro has 5 attacking returns, which is the most by any player between Chelsea and Liverpool. The second place who comes with the most second place attacking returns is Gravenberch and Mohamed Salah, 4 attacking returns each. So I've noticed a lot of people still have Mohamed Salah, and I know he's very good, but can you honestly keep him in your team when he's below average, to be honest? If we were to look at DEFCON points and just select Liverpool, Chelsea and Liverpool, We can see, look at that. Virgil van Dijk, 8 defensive contributions so far. Even in his past, the game that they played against Crystal Palace, he only got 2 points, and both the points came from defensive contribution. That's really funny. But Casado also, he got 2 points only. I've got him in my team. He was 1 defensive contribution away from getting another 2 points, because the threshold for a midfielder is 12 and he had 11. Okay, so bonus points, Chelsea and Liverpool. Yeah, Gravenberch seems like a very good investment. He's only owned by 4.5%. He's only 5.6 million as well. Super high form is 7.0. Very, very good. He's had terrific last 2 game weeks. Game week 6 and 5 here. He did excellent. He was also close to getting another 2 points because of defensive contribution. We can see he had 11, so he was 1 more tackle away. But he seems like he's been a solid player, and if you look, he's been playing every minute of the game. So he's played 90 minutes for the past 5 games in a row. So, and in terms of transfers, he's been transferred in 112,000 times, and he's the 11th highest ranking transfer in. So I don't think his value is going to go up tonight or tomorrow, but that's something we can look into later. But just to summarize, Chelsea versus Liverpool is going to be another interesting match. I would think Liverpool are going to win it, but at the same time, Chelsea are sometimes a bogey team for Liverpool as well. They usually play very well with top teams, Chelsea. So it's going to be an interesting one. I will personally, I expect goals from Liverpool. So if you have any defenders from Chelsea, well, I've got Chalobah, but he got a red card, so he's not playing anyway. You'd rather bench Chelsea defenders, get in Liverpool and Chelsea midfielders. I think it's going to be an end-to-end match. There's going to be some goals, definitely. No one's going to be parking the bus in this match. And yes, you should also consider Chelsea striker, who is it, João Pedro and Ekite. Yeah. So this is my summary for Chelsea versus Liverpool. The next game is we are analyzing. It's Aston Villa versus Burnley. This is a very interesting already. When I see bar charts overlapping, it's always nice to see that. But then again, if you look at the stats, Aston Villa won their first game recently, so they have 33% record at home, whilst Burnley haven't won a match at all playing away, so they've got a 0% or null. In terms of total points, both teams are very poor. 4 points for Burnley, 6 points for Aston Villa. And then league ranking, they're actually close to the relegation zone at the moment. 18th place for Burnley, 16th for Aston Villa. Looking at the past 3 game week goals, Aston Villa scored 4 goals in the past 3 game weeks. I think 3 came in the past game week, but we can double check that. Burnley only 2. Conceding wise, look at this. This is very interesting. Burnley have conceded 7 goals in the past 3 game weeks. So they are literally, the goal is open for Aston Villa to score. And we can look at some stats here. So if we just analyze, Aston Villa is right here with 6 points. Burnley is here with 4 points. Now, Aston Villa are playing home. So let's look at the record playing home. So they've got all their points. Yeah. Do they have a total of 4 points? No, 6 points. Okay. So they got majority of their points from playing at home. They won against Fulham yesterday 3-1. Pardon me. They lost against Crystal Palace 3-0. Newcastle, they drew. So they got 4 points while playing away. If we look at the goals as well, they've only scored 3 goals in total playing at home, but they conceded 4 goals over 2 games. So that's not the most amazing record, but this game where they won against Fulham is very promising. So there's something to take note. If we look at Burnley on the other hand, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. They are the highest conceding team out of all the teams when they play away. Look at this. So they have got 11 points they have conceded 11 goals whilst playing away. But then again, they played very good teams. Tottenham, they lost 3-0 against them, 3-2 against Man United, 5-1 against Man City. So it looks like a quite straightforward assumption, and the assumption that everyone's going to predict is that Burnley's going to lose. Burnley's going to concede. Aston Villa likely to score, especially after scoring 3 goals recently. Let me check again. They played home to Fulham and they're going to play home again, which means they've got this momentum. So let's have a look at the players from Aston Villa team and how they performed versus Burnley. Okay, let's click on points. Aston Villa. Okay, so we can see like over the past 6 game weeks, game week 6 and game week 4, they played pretty decent, but all the other game weeks, they were quite poor. So looking at game week 6 specifically, we can see the top players were Watkins, surprisingly. He scored his first goal, I think, over 700 hours. MashaAllah. And then Buendia, I'm not even sure who that is. I've never heard of him. Okay, 1 goal, 1 assist. So he got 12 points, and then he got 3 bonus points as well. And he only played for 45 minutes. So he had a solid match, and that's the first time he's playing. Actually, that's not the first time. Let me unselect and click on Aston Villa. Let's see his record. Look at that. So he scored 12 points. He's selected by 0.1% only, but his history of playing, it's never been a full match. We can see that. And it's always been 1 or 2 points. So he's definitely just came out of nowhere and started scoring an assist. So that's quite interesting. In terms of the Aston Villa's top performing players to date, we can see it's in defense. So we've got Cash, Matty Cash, yeah. Matty Cash has played decent so far with 27 points. He's selected by 5.3%. Not bad at all, though he only had 2 points last game week, which is yesterday on Saturday. Mings has got 23. When I see data like this where a player plays 90 minutes and then they suddenly don't play much at all, that is sometimes frustrating, isn't it? So he only got 1 point and he only played for 31 minutes. McGinn was good, wasn't he? He scored, I think I remember. He scored 1 goal against Fulham. And so he's only got 6 points, yeah. So how much does Watkins cost? 8.7. So he's lost some value. And but Rogers, he's usually selected by quite a lot, isn't it? 5.8 selected. Okay. So overall, and if we look at Burnley, let's not forget Burnley. Anthony's killing it. Look at those points. 40 points. He got 40 points. Whilst his entire team is a little bit behind him, isn't it? So he got 6 points in the last game week. He managed to get a goal against Man City. Took away Man City's clean sheet. And look at his attacking returns. My goodness. I'm going to check out Burnley's attacking return and Aston Villa. Look at that. So, very, very interesting fact. Anthony has 5 attacking returns, more than anyone from Aston Villa and Burnley, whilst no one comes close to him. So he is definitely someone to keep. And if I see how much he's selected by 4 point, let me just select points again. Burnley, he's already one of the top. He's the second top midfielder after Semenyo with 40 points. And sometimes it does that. Okay. Are you gonna come? Oh, okay. If it doesn't come, we can always click here and go here. So he's averaging 88 minutes per game. He's got an average point of 6.7 points per game. He is getting 4.5 of those points from goals and assists, and the rest is averaging 1 bonus point per game, which is interesting. No defensive contribution points. He's not their first choice penalty taker, but his form is on fire, better than Mohamed Salah, to be honest. So he is doing very well. There it is. Look at those points. He's been getting good minutes. So yeah, my summary for Aston Villa Burnley is Burnley's going to concede. Burnley's likely to lose because they lost every game playing away. Aston Villa's got a good momentum, so they might start scoring. But to be honest, I don't know who, because there's no one outshining in that team. But Burnley have Anthony, who is playing awesome. He's on my team as well. So Anthony is likely to score as well, I would say, because Aston Villa's is not amazing when it comes to defense. So keep Anthony on your team for this game, definitely. So this is my summary for Aston Villa versus Burnley. Next game is Everton versus Crystal Palace. I'm going to skip that because Everton, I think they're just playing against West Ham right now. So let's move to Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Okay. So the first thing we see is Newcastle have won only one game whilst playing home, whilst Nottingham Forest have not won any games playing away. In terms of points, they have very similar points, 5 points and 6 points. At the bottom of the league table, in terms of scoring goals, they're very poor at scoring goals. Newcastle only 2, Nottingham Forest 1 in the past 3 games. Pardon. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, they've been conceding a lot. They've conceded 5 versus 2 for Newcastle. So if we quickly look at Newcastle, we can see every time they play, they lost 2-1 against Arsenal yesterday, playing home. They've won against Wolves and they've lost against Liverpool. So they've actually had a tough game so far. So overall, so they've only generated 3 points playing home. They've conceded 5 times at home, and they scored 4 times at home. I won't look at the away record because they're not playing away. But on the other hand, they are playing against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest away, on the other hand, they drew against Burnley recently. They lost against Arsenal 3-0, and they've drew against Crystal Palace. So, no, not amazing. They've only generated 2 points. They've conceded 5 goals away, and they've only scored 2 goals. So, both teams are not exactly teams are in high form. If we look at the players, and Newcastle generated 39 points in total last game week. Walter made, did he score? I didn't even watch that match. He scored 1 goal. He played 66 minutes, 1 bonus point. Tonali, he assisted the goal. And Livramento, he got a clean sheet. Okay. So he left the pitch before they conceded. Yeah, so he managed to get his 6 points. Nothing amazing. If we look at overall performance of Newcastle players, the top player for Newcastle is Livramento with 37 points. 6. And then it's Burn. He got 0 points. I left him on my team. And Gabriel on bench. So the top players is Livramento and Pope, actually. Pope is doing well. And then if we look at Nottingham Forest, best performers in Nottingham Forest is Wood with 22 points. You can see although he's got 22 points, he only had a solid game week 1. The rest of the games have been extremely poor, blanking. And same with Dan Ndoye. First 2 game weeks he did okay, and the rest were kind of blanks. So if we look at DEFCON points, maybe let's see DEFCON, and just select on Nottingham Forest and Newcastle. Okay. Anderson with 6 DEFCON points. He had DEFCON points last 3 games in a row, but overall his point tally, you can see, is not amazing. So, but on the other hand, if we look at attacking returns, Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, you can clearly see there's no clear champion of attackers. Everyone's got either 1 or 2 attacking returns. Bonus points. Nottingham Forest and Newcastle. 4. Yeah, not bad. So I would. Okay. So to summarize this game, I would personally put my Newcastle defenders. I'm going to predict Newcastle to have a clean sheet. Nottingham Forest unable to score purely because of their record so far. And Newcastle potentially might win this. And if there is a person who's going to score for Newcastle, it would be Waldemade. He's most likely to score for Newcastle. That's my summary for Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Moving on to Wolves versus Brighton. Moving on to Wolves versus Brighton. Okay. First thing I noticed, Wolves have not won any games at all playing at home. Brighton have won one game, 33% of all the 33% of the past 3 away games they played. So that's technically one game that they've won. In terms of points, there's a big distinction. 8 points for Brighton, 1 point for Wolves. League ranking about 11 difference. In terms of number of goals scored, Brighton scored 6, whereas Wolves has scored 2 in the past 3 game weeks. In terms of conceding, it's been exactly the same. So let's see how they perform home and away. So Brighton are currently slightly above the mid-table and with 8 points, whilst Wolves are right at the bottom. Now, Brighton are playing away, so if we look at the away record, they won against Chelsea recently. That was an interesting match. They lost against Bournemouth and they lost against Everton. At the same time, Wolves, if we just look at all of Wolves, okay, home only. Wolves has lost against Leeds recently. They've lost against Everton 3-2, and they lost against Man City 4-0. So they haven't won any games at all playing home. So this is actually a game that you can invest in, and I would invest in Brighton attackers. So let's look who is Brighton's best attackers, and I know which one it is because I have him on my team. Brighton. Minte has been excellent. If you watch him play, I love the way he plays. He hasn't got the best amazing points record in comparison to Anthony and Semenyo, players like that, but the way he plays is really good. And in terms of the points, he's not bad at all. He's been getting 5 points, 9 points, 6 points. So he is Brighton's best player. Wolves, on the other hand, you can see it's been very, very poor. Strand Larsen hasn't even been getting minutes, 83 minutes, 45 minutes, and he hasn't made much of a difference. And he recently signed a new contract, didn't he? So he's not someone I would invest in. I wouldn't really invest in anyone from Wolves right now. But definitely Brighton, I would highly suggest you get Minte. Mitoma, I always liked him, but he doesn't really have an amazing scoring record. Or if I quickly look at Defcon, Brighton, okay, Van Heck, he's got 6 Defcon points, and all coming from the past 3 game weeks, so that's good. But at the same time, you can see they've been conceding a lot, so Brighton defense is, I would not invest in Brighton defense because they've conceded in every single game. And there you have it, 1-2-2, 1-2-1. They've conceded every single game. So this one's a little bit simple. So my summary for Wolves versus Brighton is invest in Minte. Full stop. Final game. Final game to go through is Brentford versus Man City. Oh, okay. Brentford versus Man City. Now, this is very interesting. Brentford have won 67% of their home games. That's 2 of 3 home games that Brentford has won. At the same time, Man City have only won 1 of the 3 games that they played away, which accounts for 33%. In terms of points, there's 3 points difference between the team. And that 3 points is 6 positions. That's a big difference, isn't it? And then in terms of number of goals scored, look at this. 9 goals scored by Man City in the past 3 game weeks. Brentford haven't been bad as well. 6 goals they scored in the past 3 game weeks. So that's impressive. But in terms of conceding, Brentford have conceded 6, whilst Man City have conceded 2 only. Let's have a look at how they perform. So Man City are currently sitting 7th on the league table with 10 points. If we see, and they're playing away. So if we look at the away record, out of the 10 points, they've generated 4 points on 4 points from away games. We can see that they drew against Arsenal, they lost against Brighton, and they won against Wolves. If we look at the away goal scoring record, they scored 6, which is an average of 2 goals per game, and they conceded 3, an average of 1 goal conceding per game. On the other hand, if we look at Brentford home, Brentford have generated 7 points, and that's very good because that's the second highest, joint second highest. That's on the same level as Arsenal and Bournemouth. Only Liverpool got more points playing home than Brentford. That is very interesting. So they won 3-1 against Man United, drew against Chelsea, and they won 1-0 against Aston Villa. In terms of goals, they've scored 6 goals playing at home and conceded 3 goals at home. So that is actually very interesting. So what else can I say from here? So moving on to the individual players, let's have a look how the players make an impact for the games. Okay, so let's look at total points, and let's select Man City and Brentford. Let's see how they perform. Straight away, you notice a lot of Brentford players kit right in your screen, which is very interesting. You can see Haaland is currently on another level, right? He's been getting mad amount of points. His attacking returns is off the charts. He is selected by 53%. So whoever's watching, at least one of two people have got Haaland, and he is a natural captain at the moment. Everyone's going to be captaining him. But should we captain him? Let's see. Brentford, there's no Brentford. Okay, the top players, Brentford. That's quite surprising actually, because if we deselect them and if we just look at the average top performance for defenders, we can see they've got from 40, 30s. You know, there's a lot of players scoring, getting a lot of points. But for Brentford and Man City, they haven't even reached 20 yet, which is very, very shocking. So both teams don't really have an amazing defense. At the same time, in terms of midfielders, Doku is doing quite well with 28 points. Reinders got 28 points as well. And nothing amazing to see, to be honest. I know Brentford have got a lot of DEFCON points. So if we look at DEFCON, and if we select Man City and Brentford, we can see Collins with 6 defensive contribution points. And to be honest, they recently played Manchester United and Fulham. So maybe he wasn't involved in much attack, but guaranteed they will have a busy day, busy afternoon when they play against Man City. So you can expect them to have some defensive points or gain more defensive contribution points. We can see they generated 12 points in GameWeek 2. So that is a clear record. The most defensive contribution points for the entire team on GameWeek 2. But if we look at Man City, you can see they haven't been getting much defensive contribution points. Only GameWeek 5 they got some. Guardiola. But that means that's because they played against Arsenal. No wonder. But since they played against Burnley, they didn't really need to defend. So what does that mean? It means, if we look at bonus points, let's have a quick look at bonus points. Brentford and Man City. Okay, Haaland's been getting the most amount of bonus points, but everyone else, nothing amazing. Okay, so to summarize this game, I predict Man City is gonna have a tough game. It's not going to be an easy walk in the park or a piece of cake for Man City. Brentford defenders do work hard. They have an excellent working rate. We can expect definitely defensive contribution points from Brentford. We can possibly expect some goals from Man City, but I would not. I think I have a hunch that I wouldn't captain. I mean, Haaland, he's a natural person to captain, but I would look for others as well, and I'll have a think about if over the next couple of days to see if there's anyone better to captain. But let's have a quick look at something. So Haaland, why did that disappear? Okay. That's not supposed to happen. Okay, so that's that. So that is my summary for Brentford versus Man City. Anyways, it's been a long day and long video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'll do a more summarized version video very soon, and subscribe and like my videos to get more videos from me. Thanks for watching, and